Does it ever feel like you're doing everything right in the gym, but you're not getting results? The reason is you're probably not doing everything right, even if you are working hard. So here are 10 strategic changes that we make for our clients inside of our elite coaching program. You can take them and apply them, and I guarantee it, you're going to start seeing better results. You ready? Let's do it. First, lower your reps. I see so many people do a blanket 3 sets of 10, sets of 12, sets of 15. And the idea is if I do more reps, if I have shorter rest periods, this combination, I'm going to burn more calories directly in a workout. And by extension, I will be able to get leaner. That's not necessarily how it works. In fact, what happens with a lot of people is they actually start to lose lean muscle tissue. And even if they get leaner, they kind of get that skinny fat look that they're not really after. So when it comes to your training, what should we focus on? Most of your work sets should be somewhere in that 6 to 8, 6 to 10 rep range. The reason for this is our muscles do best when we are creating high levels of tension, not just getting a pump. If we look at the most important aspects of building lean muscle, which are also the most important aspects of retaining lean muscle when we are cutting and trying to get leaner, it is high tension strength training where you're taking heavy weight close to failure. So when you're looking at your workouts, are you doing short rest periods? Are you having a lot of high rep sets of 10, 12, 15, just trying to get a pump and trying to burn calories? If so, you're going to be better suited actually reducing the number of reps that you're doing in each individual set, getting stronger, getting personal records on a regular basis in the gym. That's going to create more muscle building tension directly in the tissue itself. And by extension, that creates more work capacity. For example, a lot of people will just increase reps, and not really pay attention to the weight that they're using. But if we are focusing on using a lower rep approach, this allows us to create more of that mechanical tension. So we drive up strength. We can directly build some muscle. But what happens on the downside or on the backside is when we get stronger, we can lift a heavier weight for more reps. So if you take your squat and you go from doing 225 pounds for 6 to going 275 pounds for 6, when you want to do a high rep set to maybe specifically build your quads with a hypertrophy rep range that could be a little bit higher, say 10, 12, 15 reps. Well, guess what? Now, instead of doing 185 pounds or 165 pounds for 12 reps, now you're doing 225 pounds because you built that foundation of strength. And so when you lower the reps, you push that strength aspect a little bit more, you're going to build more strength, more power. And by extension, that's going to help you build more muscle over time. Number 2, increase your rest periods. This has been shown time and time again with research that we need adequate rest if we want to be able to build more lean muscle. And I've talked about this a million times, but when you're trying to lose body fat, the best workouts to do so are ones that are going to help you build and or preserve the lean muscle that you have, not just shrinking down your rest periods and trying to burn more calories. That's not an effective way to do things. So your rest periods, when it comes to your heavy exercises like squats, like deadlifts, like lunges, pull-ups, where we are pushing some of these lower rep ranges that we talked about in point 1, should be between 2 minutes and 3 minutes. Now, you might be wondering, oh man, this doesn't feel as hard. I don't feel out of breath. That's okay. We're not trying to be out of breath. This isn't a conditioning session. We're trying to get strong. We're trying to get jacked. We're trying to look the part. So we need to think about, are we taking those sets close enough to failure? Because I'll tell you what, if I'm going close to failure on a deadlift, on a squat, on a row, I need every 2 to 3 minutes that I can get because my heart rate is through the roof by the end of that set. So a lot of times what happens is we conflate this idea of having a short rest period of breathing harder as actually being an effective workout, but that's not the case. Again, this isn't a conditioning session. So most of your rest periods, specifically for these heavy compound exercises that we are doing, should be between 90 seconds to 2 minutes or 2 minutes to 3 minutes in length. Now, if you're getting to the end of a workout, you're doing some higher rep isolation work on something like a bicep curl, like a lateral raise, then yes, we can consolidate. We can have a shorter rest period overall, and that's going to be fine. That's because the overall demands of the exercise are not quite as much. However, if we are lifting significant weight on these heavy compound exercises, the recovery that we need with that rest period isn't just about not being out of breath. It's actually recovery for our central nervous system. You see, if you have too short of rest periods after going heavy, after training explosively, what happens is you actually recruit fewer muscle fibers and your technique is more likely to go out the window. This is why a lot of people run into issues when they just jump into something like CrossFit as a workout program when they're trying to get strong, lean, and jacked. So if we get enough rest, that's going to allow us to actually recruit more muscle fibers, get stronger, and create a better overall training response than if we use short rest. So make sure you're resting long enough, 2 to 3 minutes between most of your sets. Decrease the total number of sets per workout. A lot of times when I'm designing a workout, when we're training, we might only have 2 or 3 work sets. But let me give you an example. So the other day when I was doing a training session, my deadlifts, I had sets of 6 to 8, right? 3 by 6 to 8. So my last work set here was around 415 pounds and I ended up getting 6 reps, right? So when I'm going in the gym, what am I doing for that? Well, I'm not just going in completely raw dogging it, no warm up, nothing like that. Cold, it's winter, whatever, right? I'm not just going in and hitting 415 for 6 with no ramp up. What I'm doing is I'll throw 115 on the bar. I'll do 4 to 5 reps. Then I'll go 225. Then I'll go 275. And then I'll go 315. I will do these short ramp up sets. This might take me 5 minutes. I'm literally putting the plates on, doing a couple reps with great form, and then I'm going on to the next one, on to the next one. I started my work sets and I went 365 for 8, 405 for 8, then 415 for that 6 to 8. And so that whole thing, doing those ramp up sets, what does that do for us? Well, that's going to gradually help activate our central nervous system. It's going to gradually help acclimate us to our technique, right? And so by the time I get to those work sets, I've actually done a decent amount of work to kind of prepare my body, but I haven't done so many reps and so much volume that warm up is actually compromising the quality of the workout itself. And so a lot of times what happens is people will say, hey, there's not a whole lot of volume in this workout, or like this workout looks easy if they're just looking at a workout without any context. It's because when you start a workout plan, you need to hit a couple warm-up sets before you actually use an adequate load. What I would see with a lot of people who would send me like a program review before they've even started working with us or whatever, let's say they're trying to bench press 225, they'll go 135, 185, and then like 225. And then if they're doing 3 sets of 10, just as the example, that's what they would write down, right? Well, you actually only did 1 work set. Those other sets are not heavy enough to actually create a training response based on where you're at. So specifically, when it comes to your workout sets, we should be doing a couple ramping sets, especially for the heavy compound exercises, like the first thing that's in your program, and then fewer overall work sets. Because as your overall strength and capabilities go up, you do not need as much volume to create a great training response. Because the recovery needed to, say, deadlift 415 by 6 or 8 reps is going to be dramatically higher than 135 for 8. Right? It's just going to be a lot more wear and tear in the body. So as you get stronger, you can actually decrease the overall volume, but you're going to have to hit a couple of ramp-up sets and warm-up sets in order to get there. So you don't need to hit 5 sets of 10 to make something a good workout. Hit a couple ramping up sets, and then from that point, hit your heavy work sets that are close to that failure amount, and you'll get a better training response. Change number 4, modify exercises and optimize the order in which we perform exercises. So the most important thing for training for most people is what we call basing your workouts or the order on neurological demands. Here's what this means. The exercises that have the most demand on your nervous system should be done first, because fatigue builds up. And then if we have something that's more demanding in terms of your technique, fatigue plus something highly technical equals bad. It equals exercise form breaks down. It equals we get hurt. So we don't want that shit, right? So first and foremost, we need to warm up. We need to activate tissues. We need to open up your hips, activate your glutes, mobilize your thoracic spine. Those are all going to be important things in terms of preventing injury. But then what we want to do is we want to activate your nervous system. So we go warm up. Then if we're doing something that's more athletic based, we would do a jump or a throw. We do this jump or throwing exercise because that is what's going to help fire up fast twitch muscle fibers, help us get more athletic and strong. Next, we are going to do a heavy strength exercise. So this might be 5 reps, 7 reps, 6 to 8, whatever it is. This is going to be the most demanding thing. So a workout might be something like, dynamic warm up, then we go a box jump, and then we go a squat. That's going to be heavier. As the workout continues to go on, we typically would then have an increase in terms of your rep scheme. So we go from power to strength to muscle building. So we go from 3 by 5 in a box jump. We do a squat, and we say we go 3 by 5 to 7. Then we go a Romanian deadlift, bump the reps up a little bit more, 3 by 8 to 10. Fourth exercise, it could be like a split squat. Then we're going to 3 sets of 10 to 12 or 12 to 15, because as that fatigue kind of sets in on the workout, we can take exercises and go with higher rep schemes with less technical exercises. And what does that do? First, by doing the explosive, by doing the heavy stuff first, that's going to help us activate more muscle fibers. It's going to help create a better training response. And then because fatigue is building up, now we can create more metabolic stress or the pump inside of the muscle. And that's how we can start to build more muscle and really sculpt the body that we're looking for from top to bottom. So we have to make sure we order exercises correctly, because if, for example, you would go through and do a workout and the gym is busy, so you do a bunch of isolation work on your lower body, maybe you smash your core, you smash your hamstrings, smash your quads, and then you're like, oh, well, I didn't have any room to do a deadlift before, so now I'm going to finish it at the end. Well, if you're anything but dialed in with your technique, you have a lot of load on your body with fatigue muscles and fatigue in your central nervous system, meaning it's more likely that your technique breaks down and injuries pop up. So we want to maintain the optimal order of exercises in order to continuously progress while avoiding plateaus. Adjustment number 5, adding training tempo. The vast majority of people, when they go in the gym, will just run through and try to do 10 reps, right? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it probably takes 20 seconds. Well, if we are not factoring in training tempo, we are leaving a lot of gains on the table. And so your training tempo refers to the more or less the cadence in which you lift. So what you'll see with training tempo is typically 3 to 4 numbers. So think about a bench press. We're going to lower it in 3. So 1, 2, 3, pause, 1, up, 1. That 1 rep now takes, give or take, 5 seconds. So by focusing directly on that tempo, that set, which we were just repping through before, paying no attention, now takes 50 seconds. It doesn't take 20 seconds. So if we're using a weight and we perform that same set, even if the reps are the same, for 20 seconds or 50 seconds, which one is going to have probably a greater overall training impact? That 50-second set, right? Particularly if the weight was held even. Now, whether you can or not is another story. We can get to that. But the point is, when we focus on training tempo, we have to understand that your body doesn't understand reps. It doesn't understand load, weight. It only understands resistance. Oh man, this is a serious amount of weight that's kind of coming down on me. I have to overcome it. And it understands time under tension. How long am I going to have to do this shit? So what happens with a lot of people is they start just to chase heavier weights. Form goes out the window because they're not actually emphasizing tempo. When you start to weave tempo directly into your training, you can adjust the training variables in which you are trying to maximize. So like a longer eccentric or a pause is going to eliminate the stretch reflex and build more pure strength. It could build more stability directly at the bottom of a movement, and it creates a longer time under tension. So by adding training tempo, you can train safer, you can reduce joint stress, you can get more out of each individual rep in each individual workout than you would if you're just chasing reps. So adding training tempo is, frankly, one of the most basic things that most people don't do. Right? When you see a professional strength coach write a training program, you're always going to see that tempo. Whereas a lot of people, they just worry about sets and reps. They don't really worry about things like training tempo and rest periods. Well, those are going to make the big difference in terms of what response or what trigger you are actually creating with your training, and by extension, how your body's going to transform. Number 6, I often eliminate a lot of advanced techniques, at least in the beginning. A lot of people do not focus on mastering these basics like training tempo, like proper rest periods, like optimizing exercise technique. And what they do instead is they add a lot of volume, they add a lot of complexity, they add more supersets, drop sets, rest pauses, and all these different methods that, yes, can be effective, but they won't be maximally effective unless that foundation is really maximized. And so for 90% of people in the gym, this is not the case. And I see it all the time. I see people who say, Eric, yeah, I know what to do in the gym, and then I get exercise demonstration videos, and clearly they need a lot of work on their technique and a lot of basic things. And I don't say this to put myself on a pedestal or to belittle anybody. It's just the nature of the beast, right? Much like, I can probably do my taxes, I can probably do my finances, but you know what? My accountant runs circles around me, saves me money, and thinks of things that I would just never know. It's just a matter of having that expert and somebody who's done this for 15 years at a high level to be able to optimize everything that you're doing. And then we can start to weave in those advanced techniques later on. But for the most part, most people actually need to pull out the advanced techniques. They need to simplify and execute each rep with precision, optimal rest periods, optimal tempo, and by extension, they will get more out of their training while doing less. Number 7, reduce training volume. What does that mean? That means we're going to be doing fewer sets, fewer reps, and actually probably fewer days during the week. I find the sweet spot for most people in the gym to be training about 4 days per week for about 45 minutes. The reason is there's a delicate balance with your workouts between your workouts, your nutrition, and your recovery. And typically going to the gym is the easy part. You're probably listening to this right now and being like, yeah, I love to get in the gym. I can do it every single day if my schedule allowed. Well, what we have to think about is training is the stressor. Right? All the recovery comes from our ability to reduce stress, to sleep, and to nail our nutrition. And so where do most people really struggle? Even though we're talking about training here, they don't get enough sleep. Their nutrition is inconsistent, and they try to train through it, hoping that that's going to be the answer. It's not. And so what we need to do is we need to be smarter with the overall approach, not just try to hammer more, right? So by pulling back on the training, we can actually promote better recovery and more sustainable progress. And by working on the other lifestyle aspects of stress reduction, of optimizing sleep and dialing in nutrition, what ends up happening for almost all of our clients across the board is they do a little bit less. But you know what happens? They build more muscle, they get stronger, they get leaner because everything else is improved about it. So optimizing your workouts, looking great naked isn't just about harder workouts and burning as many calories as you can. It's about synergy. It's about having the right balance between the way that you train, the way that you eat, what your lifestyle is like, and your ability to recover from all of it. Because when sleep goes down, when nutrition gets out of whack, when life gets crazy, our ability to recover from those training sessions that we love, it's also impacted. And if you don't factor that in, it just feels like you're doing everything right but not getting results. And it's not an effort problem. It's an alignment problem. It's an accountability problem. And that's why the coaching aspect of our elite coaching is so effective. Now, the eighth thing that I often do is cut back on cardio, at least temporarily. And I mean cardio, I mean the high intensity stuff. Most people love to do high intensity training, a lot of interval training, because you burn more calories per minute when you're doing it. And you think if you burn more calories in the gym, it's going to lead to better body composition. Here's what I actually find works best. First, we need to improve your overall step count. Just get your baseline level of activity up. If you're getting 5,000 steps a day, but you're redlining yourself in Orange Theory, you're still technically pretty inactive. I hate to say it, but that's just the reality of it, right? So I would rather have you do less intense exercise, improve things like step count, going for more walks, and getting up to 8,000 to 10,000 steps first. Once we have that foundation of getting those steps up, a better option is to start incorporating more zone 2 cardio. Zone 2 cardio is cardiovascular exercise where it's below high intensity. So zone 2 would be basically where if you and I were doing a workout together, we could still have a conversation. We would not be out of breath. And so a lot of people struggle with zone 2 cardio because it takes a little bit longer. And so to find how hard you should be going, take your heart rate. You'll take 220 minus your age. That's going to give your maximum heart rate. From here, multiply that particular number by 0.6 or 0.7. That'll give you a range. You can find these calculators all over online. Personally, I'm 35. So for me, this is about 115 to about 140. And so what I like to do is hold that 115 to 140 mark for 30 to 45 minutes, 2 or 3 days per week. By pulling back on the overall training to say 4 days per week or 3 days per week, we can make room for this cardiovascular aspect. The sweet thing about zone 2 cardio is it's going to help you look better. It's going to feel better. It's going to improve overall heart health. And it's not going to negatively impact your workouts, your strength performance, your ability to build muscle. Conversely, when you do a lot of hits, when you do a lot of interval training, when you're adding all of that other stuff in, especially right after a heavy strength training workout, you're actually sending your body a different signal. And that signal is actually going to prevent your body's ability to create the adaptations from building strength and from building power. And so while there's nothing wrong with doing higher levels of cardio, if you time it incorrectly, it can negate some of the hard work that you're putting in directly with the gym. So I like to pull back on the overall training volume and pull back on a high intensity cardio, boost recovery, and start to build that cardiovascular base a little bit more with more zone 2 work. Once we do that, then we can start to layer in those higher intensity components because our body has a better capacity to recover from it. And because that capacity is improved, it's not going to negatively impact your other weight training workouts that are built around building strength, about building power, and building lean muscle. Number 9 piggybacks right on this last part, but it's eliminating, dramatically reducing high intensity cardio. Again, if we are trying to reduce stress and improve that overall recovery, we want to remove some of the stressors. And so high intensity activity, can it be helpful? Of course, there are great adaptations for it, but it's about what we do when. And specifically, most people come to us because they want to be able to get leaner first and foremost. If we take your calories lower, guess what goes down? Your body's ability to recover. So if we have a limited capacity to recover, we want to be able to delegate, or we want to be able to prioritize recovery from strength training, because that's what's going to hold on to lean muscle. That is what's going to hold on to strength. So because we have a decreased ability to recover, because calories are likely lower in a case like this, then we want to be able to pull back that high intensity training. Now, if the goal is specifically building lean muscle, we still want to pull back the high intensity because that's going to send some conflicting muscle signals directly to our body in terms of what to optimize, right? We have to understand that training isn't just about calories in, calories out, or progressive overload. It's signaling different things. And so the higher intensity cardio that we do when our heart rate is going to be really elevated, you're redlining it from interval training, is a different overall response than what our body is going to want to create when it comes to adding new lean tissue. And so it's about aligning the type of cardio, the amount that we do, with a particular training phase that you're in. The final tip for you, get lean first. You might be thinking, Eric, I thought we were talking about muscle growth here. Well, here's the reality. Most people have too much body fat to adequately add lean tissue without gaining a bunch more fat. And so the typical process for most people is, hey, I'm going to lose fat and build muscle. So they start to get leaner, and then they start to feel like, oh man, now I'm getting skinny. Then they go back in bulk. And it goes this back and forth cycle, right? And they really try to straddle two things instead of going all in one direction. If you really want to be able to transform your body, the fastest way to do so is to focus 100% of your effort on getting lean first. Guys, you should be between 12 and 15% when it comes to building lean tissue. If you were above that, and above that, I mean to the point where you can't see like the top two abs, then your body's going to have one hell of a time actually building lean muscle, because that fat loss process is exponentially faster than building lean muscle. And so if we try to get leaner and build size, you don't really build any size. If you do, it's basically by accident. So for fat loss, you can expect to lose 1 to 3 pounds of body fat per week. Conversely, building muscle 1 to 3 pounds per month is very fast progress. And so if you have 10 or 15 pounds to lose, first focus on losing that 10 to 15 pounds. It might take you 30 days. It might take you 90 days. Get down to that 15% body fat. Once you're there, then we can start to layer in the carbohydrates, because your body's going to be more sensitive to insulin. Your body's going to have better testosterone levels. You're probably going to have better gut health and better overall inflammatory markers and hormone health. So because you're lean, now you can easily start to tolerate more carbs. That's the best fuel when it comes to building lean tissue. And you can start to add that lean size without gaining body fat on the backside. So the final tip here, make sure you're getting lean enough first. You should be between 12 and 15% before you actually try to bulk. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck in that phase where you bulk up, cut down, work hard, but your body never really changes. So we want to get lean first. I like a lower carbohydrate approach for doing that. But once we've done that, then we can start to layer in more carbohydrates, because you're leaner and your body can build that size without gaining body fat. So there you have it, 10 simple strategies that you can deploy right now to improve your workouts and to improve your training. The most important thing I would say here is having synergy. You need to have clear alignment between the way that you train, the way that you eat, what's practical within your lifestyle, and the accountability to stick with it. If you don't, you end up working your butt off, but feeling like you're not quite getting any results. Now, if you found this video beneficial, please do me a favor, drop me a comment below. Seeing your comments helps me improve, helps us create better content overall for this channel, and make sure that we can help you look great naked without living in the gym.